to the top of the world, but the North Star has already flown. I hear rumors of a place where the soul was born. And watch all the bright lights shimmer, try to see something where there is none. And I really believe that I could touch the sun. Who's inside my mind? Who's inside my mind? Everything is alright, but I keep seeing ghosts in the daylight. Who's inside my mind? Who's inside my mind? Everything is alright, but I keep seeing ghosts in the daylight. Turn the lights down low and watch all the vampires in silhouette. I run for the hills and try to keep my head. Still a chance, still a chance.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another Wednesday night Paracrew podcast. How are y'all doing? You guys doing well? I'm doing really well for multiple reasons. One, we have an awesome guest tonight. We were chatting a little bit backstage. I'm really excited about. And two, I found something new to sip on, and I'm just going to say it that way. It's a new thing to sip on. It's delicious. I love it, and it's different. So, but we also have something else to celebrate. So, so as most of you know, our brother Brian John Laverty has Parapost, right? Parapost, right? Yeah. If you don't know what Parapost is, stay tuned. You'll find out because we talk about Parapost in the break. So just stick around. Anyway, so he actually got a great idea from this individual, Nando. What's up, brother? Nando is from Portal to the Paranormal for a brand new Facebook page. You heard me right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud and honored to have the first Paracrew podcast on Parapost 2. You heard me right. Not 1, 2. There's another one now, and this is international. So I am super excited about it. And Nando, bravo, brother. Great idea. I'm excited for it. And again, I'm honored to be in it and involved with this. So thank you so much. So we have an amazing guest tonight. I'm really excited. I am really, really excited about this guest. Just because of what his field of study is. A lot of people said that I'm not right, which is true, and regular psychology doesn't work. So we decided to go to parapsychology. So we actually have a parapsychologist here. And I am super excited to have a chat with him because parapsychology, for those of you who don't know, is also a little bit of a hobby of mine as well. So I'm really excited to talk to him. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen from Parasykes, please give a very warm Paracrew podcast welcome to Walt. Walt, how we doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, Matt.
Hey, no problem, no problem. It's funny, and most of our audience knows by now that Sarah Russell Squeakers, she schedules these out, and a lot of times I don't know who our guest is. And when she said we have a parapsychologist coming on, I went, good.
Wait, they still have those?
And it's funny when I first started 16 years ago in the paranormal field. Parapsychology was one of those things I was like, ooh, I could get involved with that. I could see myself working with that. And I dabbled a little bit, but nothing to the degree that you have. So I'm super excited to have you on here and to find out more about the field and yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got started in parapsychology in 1986. Yeah, see the gray hairs? Yeah.
No, I got him too.
And what's been really fascinating the last couple of years is a lot of the people that I studied under or read about or interviewed myself or mentored under are still around.
Isn't that something?
I was really amazed. I was at a paranormal convention last year, 2 years ago, and I mentioned that I studied under Lloyd Auerbach. And somebody went, "Oh, wow, I haven't heard that name since the 90s." And I discovered this morning, I got an email from the Rhine Institute saying that he's teaching a whole bunch of classes online now starting in February. And I was like, he's still around? Like I
Oh my
studied under him
gosh.
30 years ago. So,
That's
and
awesome.
the same as Dr. Stanley Krippner. I studied under him in the 80s from Calvert University, one of the
Mhm.
biggest parapsychology departments in the country, and he's still lecturing. And I'm
I would
like, good grief, man, you were old 30 years ago. Like, that's
I
amazing.
I would pay an entire year's paycheck, and that's not saying much, but I would pay a whole year's paycheck to go listen to his lecture, just one. Um, I
And it's amazing. And he still has live stuff that comes out. He
Hmm.
broadcasts, he's in a wheelchair on an oxygen tank, because he's 96 now, I believe. But he's still lecturing.
Now
And it's
that's
just
dedication.
amazing. And another person that I wrote a report about back in 1980 was Dr. Ray Moody,
Oh
Life
yes,
After Life.
I haven't heard that
He's
name in
he,
forever either.
yeah, and I just found out he was in Boston last year lecturing at a paranormal convention. So
Oh,
it's astounding of the amount of people and their perseverance and still at it after decades, many decades of research. And I can only
oh,
hope that, I get to that point where I can be teaching and saying, I've been doing this for 92 years, but yeah, so yeah, I got started in 86 on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where I grew up.
very
And
nice.
back then, to do any type of investigations, you
Mhm.
had to be certified and insured and bonded with the state. You could not just walk into someone's house and go, yes, this is haunted. No, you had to have certification. You had to go to school. There was a 2-year program at Cape Cod Community College in parapsychology, and you had to be insured. You had to carry liability insurance. You had to be
Mhm.
bonded. You
Mhm.
couldn't just walk in and go, I feel a presence. And whenever somebody said that, I would look like there's 6 people in the room. You better feel a presence. So that's always been my approach on that. So I've always was
Hello.
fascinated by the studying and the research that went into it and looking at it from a completely scientific perspective instead of a religious or philosophical one.
That's awesome. And thanks for interrupting, Squeaks. No.
I apologize.
So, Walt, this is the woman behind the emails. This is the one and only Sarah Russell. We love her as Squeakers. So she is one of the co-hosts of the
Greetings.
Paracrew.
Nice
Uh,
to meet you.
So, folks, Walt. So one thing we always like to do at the start of the show is say hello to our awesome audience, and you can't start off with an awesome audience without saying hello to awesome Emmy from PDX, because like she says, you can't spell awesome without Emmy. So, hey, Emmy, how are you tonight? There's Nikki. Hey, Nikki, how are you? Facebook user making your showing
Well,
again.
hello,
Welcome.
Facebook user. I'm
Facebook
so
user is
glad
very
there's one
possible.
here.
Oh, we get a couple. And there's Nando, like I said, from Portal to the Paranormal. I don't know what she's doing. Welcome to the show. I agree, Nando. This is going to be a great chat. I'm super excited. And Facebook user is welcoming you, brother, to the show.
Thank you. Great to be
Amethyst,
here.
welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome. That's a new one I haven't seen. So you mentioned Boston, Walt, and this is our brother, the Don from Boston, Victor Santiago from the Don Vic Show. Him and his, you saw in the intro, there was an individual who is the fan of the month. He goes by IG. This is his he's Victor's co-host on the Don Vic Show.
Okay.
And Victor, there are some little secrets that we are going to have to come up to Boston and show you. Victor's on the outside of our field looking in. He's going to get a crash course in paranormal. That has got to be Happen Paranormal, I'm assuming. What's up? If that is Happen, Robin, how are you? If it's not Robin, Facebook user, hi again. David, what's up, David? Yeah, I haven't seen you since before the holidays. Oh, you were sick? Oh, I hope you're feeling better.
Well, I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, same. Phoenix. Hey, Phoenix, how are you tonight? Oh, it's IG. There it is. So that's our fan of the month right there, IG.
Wonderful. Well, glad to have you here.
Let's see who else we got. Howdy, y'all. Aaron Cartwright, what's up? I'm assuming that's the name. Cartwright, Aaron Cartwright. Either way, sounds good. How are you? I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And it was our brother Happen Paranormal for Robin. J-Mac is so J-Mac is Emmy's husband, whether he wants to admit it or not. No, I'm joking. I love you, Emmy.
Well,
we're a very playful crew. Emmy is part of that P3 family I was telling you about.
okay.
Emmy is a part of it. So most people in here are family too. We love them, and we like to pick. So, well, you've been in for quite a long time, and let's be honest. Back in '86, there wasn't really a lot of paranormal stuff going on that was mainstreamed. So,
there certainly was.
Was there?
Oh, there certainly was. I mean, now, mind you, I'm coming from a perspective of Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
And Cape Cod is loaded with old sea captain houses.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was convinced their house was more haunted. That the Johnson's house is more haunted than the Smith's house. That kind of thing. So it was like a competition who had more sea captains, who had more first mates, who had ladies of the evening roaming the halls upstairs on the third floor. So this was a big debate. And that's not why I went to school. I was in college in 1983 and 84, studying electronics, and got in a car accident and ended up with a traumatic brain injury and and I had amnesia, and I went through 11 months of hypnotherapy. And when I went back to school, I was absolutely fascinated in wanting to study more about the mind. So I had already done psychology. So then I went and did abnormal psychology. And they said, do you want to do our parapsychology? Because we go much more into what is in the mind, what is deeper in the mind that we don't research. And I was like, well, I want to know more about hypnotherapy and how that works. And they said, well, that's parapsychology, young man. So I got into that course. And the interesting thing is, in order to study parapsychology, you have to have a bunch of prerequisites. So that's why I get a little twitchy when people start a parapsychology course and say, this is parapsychology 101. There's no such thing, because 101 implies there's no prerequisites and there's no credits, is what the numbers mean. It's Oxford collegiate code. And in order to study parapsychology, there's 3 prerequisites. So you have to do psychology, abnormal psychology, and then either like construction or metallurgy, geology, ancient languages, ancient religions, something else that ties into one of the fields of parapsychology. And so I did ancient religions because I thought that was fascinating, because I was raised Catholic. I was told that was the only religion. So I went and studied ancient religions and went, there's more to this. And so when I went to school, it was a big thing. I mean, it was tough to get into the program because so many people were scrambling because they wanted to investigate haunted houses. They wanted to check out these big old sea captain houses. And that came along in the second year when we started looking into that. And the interesting thing was that the teacher that was in charge of the whole program retired, and the new teacher that came in looked at it from a completely different perspective, did not look at it from a scientific perspective that I was used to. She came at it from a very metaphysical perspective and started talking about auras and chakras and getting in touch with our animal spirits. And so it was a very, very different way of looking at it. And truth be told, I was really good at it. Who knew? So when they started doing aura cleansing and chakra balancing and all that, I was really, really good at that. And then they started doing shiatsu and touch for health and all these different hands-on modalities. And I switched to the massage program, and I've been a massage therapist now for 34 years. So it's been, and so then I kept studying parapsychology from a more scientific perspective, but it blended in with all the other things that I've been doing. So found out not too long ago that teaching anatomy, teaching massage, all came hand in hand with parapsychology. And because this is what I teach in my classes all the time. What is the most annoying question for a parapsychologist to get?
Okay, I'll bite.
What do you think that would be?
Honestly, I don't know.
From my perspective, the most annoying question is, do you believe in the sixth sense?
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And that's an incredibly annoying question to me, because it's implying that the human body only has 5 senses. And it doesn't. We have 32 senses. So
that's a new
looking
one.
at it from an anatomical structure. So if I know we're in a limited amount of time, and I'm not doing a 2-hour class on ESP right now. That's
you could. I mean, you can do a warm up. I mean, we have no time.
Let me run these quick questions by everybody that's watching the show. Have you ever been hungry before? Have you ever been thirsty? Have you ever felt you ate or drank enough? Have you ever felt you ate or drank too much? Have you ever felt the need to pee? Have you ever felt the need to poo? That's 6 senses right there. And those are primary senses. You take any one of those senses away, and you're going to die a slow, horrible death. Have you ever been tired? Have you ever been dizzy? Have you ever felt nauseous? Have you ever felt that you stretched too far for reaching for something?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're up to 12 senses, and we haven't touched the 5 that we're told are the only ones. So I could go on and on and on. And then when you get into like pain and touch, oh, we've heard of that one. those are both umbrella senses that use both mechanoreceptors and chemoreceptors. So there's actually different types of pain, different types of touch. And
Okay.
so when you break that all down, you go into nociception and proprioception and muscle movement, heat, thermoreception. When you break that all down, we have 23 primary senses. So if you don't have the sense of equilibrium, you have vertigo and you're going to die a horrible death. But then you get into the special senses, and those are the ones we know about. We've already talked about touch, but then you have sight and hearing, taste, and smell. Those are considered special senses. Now, this is where it gets philosophical. Are those primary senses? If you take those senses away, you don't die from it. Can you die from being blind? Sure, you walk off a ledge and nobody tells you. You walk
Yeah.
in front of a train, nobody tells you that you don't hear it coming. So there's the philosophical arguments on that. But if somebody becomes blind, they don't die. Somebody loses the sense of inhaling and you suffocate and you die. So there's primary senses, then your special senses. Then you have your extra special senses. There's your clairs. Clair is French for clear. So clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, clairgustance, clairolfactance. Those are your 5 extra special senses. Now, for anybody that's in the medical field that's watching right now that says, hey, wait, those aren't there. Those aren't real. Those aren't scientifically proven. Go find your anatomy and physiology book called the Tutora. They're in there. They're listed. And they're even linked to your endocrine system. That's medically shown. That is medically documented. That people that have, well, here's a great point. This is a great point. And I'm trying not to jump around because I'm so used to cue cards in my classes. I'm so used to a PowerPoint presentation. So we've all heard that kids are psychic.
Yes.
Kids are very sensitive. Kids are able to pick up on things, and then it gets chased out of them, or they're given religion, or they're educated, and it goes away. I don't accept that. I don't think it's a matter of it being chased out of them. I think it's a matter of hormones. Because when people have huge amounts of HGH, human growth hormone, that comes from the pituitary gland, when it gets exposed to the pineal gland is your master hormone that controls everything else, controls your melatonin, controls all the different things in your body. And when the pineal gland gets exposed to HGH, it opens up what is known as the third eye. And that's what gives us our psychic abilities. So when kids have growth spurts and their pineal gland gets exposed to a huge amount of HGH, that's when they're having a sensitive moment. That's when they're having a psychic surge. And as they grow up and the growth spurts stop, that's when they stop being sensitive and psychic. So that brings up the question, what causes people to maintain being psychic? The pituitary gland gets stuck open. The pineal gland gets stuck open. There's some kind of balance or imbalance that causes that sensitivity, that ability to pick up different vibrations and different wavelengths to continue. So I don't think it's a matter of it being chased out of them or scared out of them more than it is literally genetic.
Wow. Well, Squeakers, he's done it. He taught me something. I learned
My
something.
work is done.
See, the consultant does not know everything.
That's the fascinating part of looking at things from a scientific perspective. Now, and here's the fun part, Matt. If I didn't switch to the massage program and didn't get into anatomy and physiology and end up years later becoming an anatomy teacher, I would have never made that connection.
You know, it's kind of interesting because now do you deal with the actual paranormal? And when I say actual, I mean investigations. Do you go out and investigate and stuff like that? Are you Do you do
From
that in the field?
from when I started up Parasykes in 1988.
Mhm.
From 1988 to 1992, I did over 300 investigations
Okay. So as you
around
know,
Cape Cod, and that term investigations is very broad. That does involve going into the old sea captain houses because, like I said,
yep,
there was lots
everyone
of
has
them. There was
them.
hundreds of them. I mean, just in my little town of Yarmouthport, there's hundreds of them.
which as you know, and we're going to take a step back here. As you know, in the paranormal field, there is the scientific and the metaphysical. Most people are okay meshing them together. Like myself, I do practice a little bit of Wicca, a little pagan, but I am very scientific in my approach. I debunk,
Mhm.
I do all that. See, there goes my camera again. It's doing that thing.
I see. Now I see what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. So, so a lot of people, can mesh, but there is a big difference, obviously, between the scientific and the metaphysical. So when you say, I mean, I get the scientific side of parapsychology. We'll just make it a very broad statement. The scientific base, I'm assuming it's the senses, it's the psychology part of it. But when you are talking about the metaphysical side, what exactly is that difference? Because you said you had that one, teacher who or instructor who was scientific, and then the other one who was metaphysical. What was that difference besides just the chakras?
Well, and the interesting part was, here's a little more interesting background on me.
Mhm.
Growing up as a kid, I was seen by a lot of psychologists because I was always seeing things. I was always seeing things that nobody else was seeing,
Mm.
and I was brought to special doctors on a regular basis that never could figure out what was going on. And right out of high school, I went into the military, and I did electronics in the military.
What
Now,
branch?
if you ever do electronics in the military, they test your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They test your eyes a lot because you're doing electronics, which are really, really tiny and everything's color coded. So you got to be able to make sure that you can see black from dark green, from dark blue, from brown. So you got to be able to identify all this. Well, not only did I pass all their tests, I surpassed all their tests. Now, when you do color testing in school, they'll do the red green deficiency test, the Ishihara cards. So you
Mm-hmm.
get the multicolored cards with the numbers on it, and you got to say, "Oh,
Yep.
I see 42." You know,
Yep.
and I would always look at those cards and go, "All right, which number do you want me to? What number do you see? I see 42. I see 172. I see 83. I see the words SX. The word F bomb is in there several times." I would pick up all this stuff, and they're like, "What?" And in the military, they had on the back of the cards a whole list of things that you should and should not be able to see. I would see everything. So they tested me and found out that I was born with tetrachromacy.
Ooh.
Now, tetrachromacy is very common in women, like 1 in 300 women have it. It's very uncommon in men.
Hmm.
So, tetrachromacy is the human eye has 3 rods and 3 cones to pick up the 7 color spectrum, the Roy G. Biv: red, orange, yellow, blue,
Mm-hmm.
green, indigo, violet. I have 4 rods, and the fourth rod is thicker than the others. I can actually see the electromagnetic field. I can actually see the electromagnetic spectrum. So when I look at people, I'm not just looking at their bodies, I'm looking at their electromagnetic field that the body puts out.
Hmm.
So, what would the Air Force do? But test me. We actually scientifically proven the existence of the human aura back in 1983. So one technician actually said, this classifies you as a governmentally sanctioned psychic, right? And I went, I'm sorry, what? I'm 18. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What did you just say? and and they said, no, we don't use that word. They don't. The Air Force does not use that word. I was designated as a individual with enhanced chromatic visual acuity, so I could see colors better.
Huh.
But it goes way beyond that because they would put people up behind a partition, and I could tell you who was standing behind the partition. I could see power conduits behind walls, things like that. So that's what got me into electronics, because I was really good at fixing electronics. Didn't know it was because I was watching the magnetic fields flowing through the circuit boards. And that's what allowed me to be so good at fixing them.
That's awesome. And I was going to ask, what branch? Because I was in the Navy myself. I was in the Seabees, and I spent some time at Shepherd Air Force Base. And they say Seabees and Navy guys, like, we like to have some fun and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, I got respect for the Air Force guys.
That's where I did all my
What about you?
testing, was at Shepherd.
At Shepherd,
Yeah,
oh,
Wichita Falls, Texas.
Texahoma, yeah.
Yeah, you got to add a few W's in that Wichita Falls.
Now I did like it. It was a beautiful base. But I was actually in the electrician side of it, in the electrician school. We had all those nice poles that, and I say nice because I'm being nice. They were splintered to all hell. But no, that's really cool. So let me ask you then, and I think some of the audience are interested too. What does the EMF field actually look like? Is it like just wave, or is it colored? Like, can you kind of describe it?
Okay. So, you go to like a paranormal convention or a holistic health fair, and there's those cameras that people take pictures of, like, this is your aura. Yeah, it's absolutely nothing like that.
Okay.
It doesn't look anything like that. The best explanation I can give anybody, and I'm still trying to get an answer 30 years later. I'm still trying to get an answer how they came up with this. But go on YouTube and look up the band In Excess and the song New Sensation. And it's them playing on a rooftop of a building with all these color electrical sparks moving around them. And that's what everybody looks like to me all the time.
No kidding. That is awesome. Now, does it change like with like is it? Let me ask, this is going to be like completely generic, but we're paranormal anyway. So, are people basically mood rings then? Like, if somebody's having a really bad day, does their aura change or the color change?
Yeah, people come up to me all the time. Oh, I've heard you can see auras. What color's mine? I was told by a psychic 13 years ago it was green. And if you say anything other than green, I know you're lying. I'm like, do you understand that your aura is constantly changing? It's in flux considerably faster than a mood ring could ever do. Because think of it this way: your thoughts are energy. Your body is energy. Every time you breathe, every time your heart beats, there's an electric current going on. Think about all the different thoughts that run through your head every millisecond.
Oh, God.
Are they all the same emotion? Do you ever pull up an old memory while thinking about something? Does that have an emotional response? Those are all different colors, wavelengths, spectrums that are all going on. So it is literally an exploding rainbow of colors going around everybody all the time. Is that distracting? Yes.
I have shiny syndrome as is, so that would maybe it's a good thing I don't have that gift. So another question I wanted to ask you, and for those in the audience, they may have had this in their mind as well. A lot of us hear parapsychology thrown about all the time. Some have different definitions of it, but what is the definition? What is parapsychology?
I did a comedy skit on this years ago, of a guy walks in late into a meeting of all the board of directors of all of the deans of a college, and the head dean is handing out all the assignments of what all the different departments are going to cover. And every time somebody is handed an assignment and a department says, oh, we don't want to do that. Oh, psychic awareness, here's psychology. Oh, we don't want that. Give it to that guy that just walked in. Okay, cryptids, biology, that's you. No, we don't want to do cryptids. Give it to that guy. Okay, avionics, we have UFOs here. Oh, we don't want to touch UFOs. Give it to that guy that just walked in. So there's this guy that just walked in late to the party and is being given all the assignments that nobody wanted. And that's how I look at it as parapsychology, because it's it's branches of so many different fields of science that they don't want to admit is part of their field of science.
Mm.
But fascinating though, if you found a college that has a psychology department and has a parapsychology subdepartment, and they're doing grant-based research, and you ask them, what is that grant-based research? What do you think is the number one area of research that colleges are doing in parapsychology?
UFOs. I would take a guess.
Not even close.
Hmm.
Dreams.
Really?
Dream research is the number one area of research in parapsychology today, like 89%. And then number two, which takes up most of that 11%, is remote viewing.
Okay. Okay. Well, Debbie has a question for you. What is it when we as auras, I see one or two colors in an aura?
So auras are a whole number of things that cause auras. So it's emotions, it's physical health, spiritual concepts. Some people say parts of your aura is people visiting and talking to you. So what causes people to see auras could be different reasons. Mine is actually literally genetic, why I see an aura. Am I seeing an aura the same way somebody seeing it with their third eye would be? Not necessarily. So what then that brings up the question, what do the colors represent? And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been seeing these colors around people for a long time. And I remember going up to my mom when I was 8 years old and saying, Mom, I'm really confused about these colors thing. She goes, what colors thing? And the CIA comment, we're going to get back to that in a second. I said, yeah. So I said, this color thing, you know how we're always talking about colors and emotions? She goes, what do you mean? I said, we always have songs about I'm blue when I'm sad, I'm red when I'm angry, I'm green with envy. She goes, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I said, why did we use those colors? That's wrong. People aren't blue when they're sad, they're gray. People aren't red when they're angry, they're red when they're in love. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, the colors we see around people. She had no idea what I was talking about. And that started setting up a precedent for me that Mom can't see this stuff. So I started talking to my friends, and everybody was like, that's not what we're seeing. And then we got into how I found out what was really going on. And when I was in the parapsychology program, one night we got up together with the Visiting Nurses Association in the nursing program at the college. And a woman came and did a talk on auras. And she pulled a woman out of the audience, sat her down in a chair, and took out a big pad of paper, some crayons, and drew out her aura. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's not her aura. And I raised my hand and I said, excuse me, that's not her aura. She goes, great. And my teacher's like, oh, God. Because if there's anything that's consistent in the world is when I walk in the room, people go, oh, God, it's Walt. So she calls me down to the stage and pulls out another easel, another pad of paper, some more colored crayons. It's here. Draw her aura. So I draw her aura, completely different image than what the other woman was drawing. Takes out a pad of paper with a pen. What does it mean? I go, all right. So I'm writing down, she had a dream about purple butterflies. I'm writing this, her left shoulder hurts. I write down all this stuff. I hand it to another person. She writes down what she interpreted from the image that she drew. Two completely different images, different colors, different shapes. The explanation, verbatim. We wrote down the exact same translation, but we were seeing two completely different images.
Okay.
And yeah, boom. I mean, I was blown away. So it put me on the fence of, should I be comfortable with telling people when they say, what does this mean? Because I never feel it's consistent, but also what I'm seeing and what this person's seeing, what that person's seeing, we may be seeing different things, but it may translate into the same thing. We just may be picking up different frequencies to get the same message.
That makes sense. That makes sense, actually. Well, guys, it's about that time. We're going to take a quick commercial break. So we are going to just play our regular commercial and be about 2.5 minutes. So, Walt, I don't know if you wanted to get up and stretch or do whatever, but guys,
Sure.
don't go anywhere. Please don't forget to share this out, like all that good stuff, because when we come back, we got some more with Walt, and I got some more thoughts, and I have some more questions. So
I do too.
Oh, good.
you know what?
It's kind of quiet. I
You know
I
what?
like listening to him. It's very knowledgeable.
No, this is a great conversation.
And I want to
really
get back
enjoying
to that CIA thing. Somebody just popped that up.
That would have been the one and only Howard Petrie, and Howard's a great guy. He's a brother of ours, and he's out there. He's out there, but he's really
If he and I are talking about the same program, that was really out there.
I'm pretty sure, knowing Howard. So, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. So, before we continue on this awesome conversation with Walt, as always, we like to give our special shout outs. Of course, guys, like I always say, Parapost, Parapost, Parapost. Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of Parapost. Have by chance, have you?
I'm not familiar with it. No.
So our one of our brothers, Brian John Laverty, has created basically a Facebook for the paranormal, and it's called Parapost. You can find it on parapost.net, or you can find our Facebook pages, Parapost Network Central. We actually have two now. We have Parapost Network Central and Parapost Network Central, or Parapost 2, which is international now. And it is basically a drama-free environment for everyone to have their opinions, their thoughts, promote themselves, promote equipment, promote what evidence, whatever you like.
Drama
And
free. That would be impressive to see.
and he has done a phenomenal job with it. And if all you have to do is go to parapost.net, or you can go to your Android or iPhone stores to sign up today, completely free, and you start networking that minute. The other people, obviously, Paralinks. We all know our friends and family over there at Paralinks. Go check them out, guys. Again, when you're on Facebook, just go to Paralinks. You can see Paralinks 123 plus or live, and yeah, go check them out. Um,
Sorry.
Not
take
a
away your
squeak
button
from
privileges.
squeakers, the irony.
I'm gonna. Oh, we'll get her. We'll get her. We always do.
No, I forgot that I was on
I'm gonna take away your button privileges. But also, I want to promote. I saw somebody said something about the Global Ghost Hunt. You just saw a video on the Global Ghost Hunt. We are hosting a very special show this Friday. So instead of the Paracrew podcast, you will be getting GGH on air. And that's right there, hosted by Brian. That's him down looking like he's so big and bad. We love him. And then it's obviously Jenny, Nando, and myself. We are going to be talking at 7 p.m. Eastern
wait.
time. You're going to be there?
Well, yeah, I already told you I would.
All right. Well, and Squeakers will be there. But we're going to be bringing on teams and hopefully some locations and answering all of your questions about the Global Ghost Hunt. If you want some information or you want to sign up, go to globalghosthunt.com. Sign up. You guys will not regret it. This is literally a game-changing event. I'm super excited about it. And of course, Fear Fest. I'm excited for Fear Fest New Orleans. I'm hoping it's still in the same date, but Mackenzie, the Wicked Consultant, and I will be honeymooning around that time in mid-October, and I'm ecstatic for that. That's gonna be so much fun to see everybody. And of course, guys, Maglite. What can I say? Join the Maglite Nation. Head on over to maglite.com, sign up today, and you won't regret it. And also, StreamYard, we are an affiliate, guys. If you want to start a show, I know there's a couple people like Scotty. Scotty Too Hottie over there at Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I know you're watching. He's starting to show up. I can't wait for that. But sign up, use a link in the description, get a little bit of a discount, have some fun, and start your podcast today. You guys will not regret it. And absolutely, Friday the 13th, and that is going to be when this show for Global Ghost Hunt is going to be arriving, is on the first Friday the 13th of the new year. And I am super, super, super excited. And that was actually a misclick, Emmy. That was our fault. That was a misclick. So it wasn't intentional. We love Phoenix. So Walt, for those of you just joining in, Walt is a parapsychologist. We've had a really amazing conversation already. I've actually learned some things, but let's highlight this right here.
Okay.
Let's start off with that, because I
Yes.
know I'm interested in hearing about it, and I know some other people are as well.
Yes. The CIA did a program for 25 years called Project Stargate. Now, despite what Parapsychology for Dummies book says, there is absolutely no association between Project Stargate and the TV series and the movies called
Damn it.
Stargate. There's no association.
I was here. I was excited.
Yeah, so and that's what it says. Like, oh look, here's a picture of everybody from Stargate SG-1. I'm like, no, there's no association. So Project Stargate was a program run out of Stanford Research Institute in California of using psychics to spy on people in other nations. And one senator called it the cheapest damn espionage unit we have in our government today, because there was no satellites, there was no equipment, there was no sending anybody over to other countries. They would just sit in this little room that was cut off from all electricity and all technology. And these two guys, Ingo Swann and Pat Price, would sit in this room and with a pad of paper and a pencil and draw out information. And it was a very successful program for 25 years. So that brings up the question, why did it end after 25 years? And I'm curious, does anybody else know before I get into it?
Got me.
I was wondering if the guy here, I met a guy, so it was after him to recruit him. But there were many, many people. It wasn't just the two psychics. There were many other people. And in 1982, when I was first discovered with tetrachromacy, I remember two technicians talking while they were setting up the equipment to test my eyes. I remember one guy saying, "Do you think this guy would be good for Project Stargate?" And I didn't even think of that until 30 years later. That's what they were talking about. Even though I learned about Project Stargate back in 1990, 89, 90, when I first learned about it. And when Ingo Swann left the program, he wrote a book about it called Starfire. And it's a great sci-fi book about a psychic war between the United States and Russia. And he goes into great graphic detail of what the US was doing to commit a psychic war against Russia. And then when you find out what they were really doing, it makes you wonder, ooh, what were they really doing? So, but the reason it got shut down was because of the Sugar Grove incident. And the Sugar Grove incident was one of the head doctors of the Stanford Research Institute was talking to a buddy of his in the Department of Defense and said, "Hey, we've got this little program going on. I wanted to see what you thought about it since you're writing our checks," and gave him an update. And the DOD guy said, let's test this theory. Here's some coordinates. Tell me what you think, what's going on at these coordinates. It's something we're looking into. So he runs the coordinates by Ingo Swann and Pat Price. They sat down and they drew out, and they're in two different rooms separated from each other, and they both drew out similar images of a compound with a security gate and a guard tower, barbed wire fence, big, huge satellite dish, and this big accordion door on a bunker. Pat Price even went as far as to drawing what billiard balls were on the table on the fourth floor below the surface.
Oh, wow.
Ingo Swann drew some papers on a desk on the second floor and what was going on in the infirmary. So they drew this all down. So the doc takes all the information, sends it to his buddy in the DOD, and the guy says, "You're full of crap. The coordinates I gave you was for a log cabin I bought on a lake out in West Virginia. Because you guys, I'm shutting you down. You are full of crap." So he said, "You have 72 hours to prove yourself." So the doc flies out to West Virginia, goes to the coordinates, and finds the cabin that his buddy had, that his buddy just bought. Goes down the dirt road past the cabin, turns right, goes up and over a hill, and comes across a big gate with a security guard tower, two armed guards saying, "You got to turn around or you'll be shot." And there's a big satellite dish with a bunker with an accordion door.
Oh.
And he's like, "Oh, this isn't supposed to be here. And these are military guards guarding the post." He says, "You got to go." So he goes back to the DOD and said, "This is what I found." Hours later, here comes the NSA, DOD, FBI, all comes and investigates. Turns out it's a Navy post. It's a secret black op naval station that was spying on Cuba with satellites, hence the satellite dish, but nobody knew it was there. So within a week, Project Stargate was shut down, not because they were successful at spying on other countries. It's because we had no way to keep secrets from them in our own country.
Makes sense.
Dun,
Makes
dun,
sense.
dun. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
the government has secrets?
Yeah.
Since
So supposedly Stargate didn't get shut down. They just changed the name and changed who was involved. Because like that person said, people are saying they're still being recruited.
Yeah.
And that brings up the question of, because I get asked this all the time, is are psychics real? It's like, of course psychics are real. I mean, I look at psychic abilities the same way I look at musical abilities. Everybody has it to some degree. And a lot of us have it to the degree that we enjoy listening to somebody else's abilities with it. And some of us have it the ability to the level where they can do something about it. And then there's the people that have just a little bit ability, but still manage to make an awful lot of money off of it. Because let's face facts, Kanye can't sing. Let's just face facts. So there's people out there that show just a little bit of psychic ability, but make an awful lot of money about it. And the people that are really, really good psychics, those are the ones you rarely hear about because they're working with the 3-lettered agencies. And when you do work with the 3-lettered agencies, you have what's called an NDA, non-disclosure agreements. And all I can say about that is I have filled some out, and that's all I can say about that.
I filled some out as well.
Yeah.
Squeakers, you had some questions. Go for it. After you unmute yourself.
Yeah. Turn your mic on.
Oh,
There we
God, I
go.
had to talk
Let's
to a
party.
teenager for a second.
She does that at least once a show. It's awesome. That's why we love her.
There we go. So my question to you is, do you believe in sorry, this is my background in my house right now. So
Wednesday.
how much are you familiar with Lorraine and Ed Warren?
I met them in 1990.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and I've always looked at Ed Warren, and all I saw was a mafia don and his mall.
I can see that.
That's
can
all
see
I've
that.
ever seen. And
can
when
see
and I joked with them, I said, you should hook up with John Goodman, because if anybody should play you, it should be John Goodman and like
I can
Mia
see
Sara. That's who should play them.
I can see that.
And so when I found out about the Conjuring movies and the Annabelle movies and said these guys are playing, I said, that's not even remotely close to Ed.
Oh, no.
Not even remotely
I agree.
close.
And you know what, though? I think they did a good job. Like, I've seen most of them. I even helped promote one of them. But, they did a good job. I'll be honest with you. But as far as accuracy, that's it.
Oh, no, not even remotely close. And I always had an issue with the classification. I mean, he was the one that came up with the term demonologist. And referring to himself as the world's first and foremost demonologist. And I said, and I remember asking him, I said, so where'd you get your training in that? And his response was, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Why is he still talking to me? So, and then I met Paulino, who worked with him for years as his spiritual consultant. And I told him the mafia joke, and he said, oh yeah, you don't say that to Ed Warren because they were closely tied to the mafia. I was like, oh, well, there we are. So.
Whoops. You got another question for him, Squeaks?
Well, yeah, a couple of them regarding Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I do know who you're talking about.
Okay. Do you know about how she could see auroras as well?
I haven't gone into
Mhm.
great detail with her as to what, like, how she saw auras, and I mean, there's like, as I mentioned earlier, there's so many different people that see so many different ways of seeing auras. So I don't know her particular method. So what's your question?
Um, well, how true do you think it was that she could see auroras? And do you think that everybody that has that ability is a bit different, kind of like all of us that are gifted with certain gifts, such as clairvoyancy, empath, sensitive, those kind of gifts?
I think a lot of it comes down to vibrations. We we hear things differently. That's why we all have different vocal cords. People talk in different tones, different paces, different cadences. So we pick it up differently just as well.
Mm.
We know that the human body hears more than just its ears. One of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life back in the 80s was a deaf ballet dancer. She was amazing, the most graceful dancer, born deaf. So, how did she know? Because she felt the music flow through her like air.
Mm.
And that was so uplifting to me. And yes, do people see auras in different ways? Do we have different empathic abilities? Do we have different clairvoyant abilities? Absolutely. As I mentioned before, I look at I look at psychic abilities the same as musical abilities. We all have different types, all on different levels, all different types of appreciations of it. And so when people say that it doesn't exist, that just doesn't make any sense to me, because there's so much evidence to it and there's so much proof of it. But yet we keep saying that there isn't any. I mean, James Randi, the Magnificent Randy, had $1 million bounty for anybody that could prove psychic abilities, but he kept changing the questions. He kept changing what the parameters were in his tests. So every time somebody like George Anderson came along and said, yes, give me your test, he would say, here's the 10 questions. And he would kept changing the questions. And it's like, oh, well, he never passed. So he doesn't get the $1 million. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
So it's things like that that makes it questionable. But I do recall somebody telling me that Lorraine Warren said on her deathbed that she made it all up. Um, but she didn't say that to
Mm.
me, so I can't say I know for a fact that that's what she said. But
I
Jane Roberts said the same thing. You know, that crushed my soul. You familiar with Jane Roberts? Am
name
I that
sounds
old?
familiar. No, the name sounds
Seth,
familiar.
Seth, the Seth material. Seth
Okay.
speaks. She Jane Roberts was this psychic medium clairvoyant that channeled this entity known as Seth for like 30 years and wrote all these books, did all these films on Seth, and on her deathbed said, I made it all up.
Mm.
And the kicker with that was they did so many tests with her. They did EEGs, EKGs, all these things, and said, yes, her voice changes, her body density changes, her facial expressions change, her brain waves change when she channels Seth. There's something really going on here. We've proven mediumship, we've proven clairvoyancy. And she's like, yeah, I made it all up. So I'm like, well, there goes that out the window. So it's
Mm.
hard to prove that things are when people say, yeah, I lied.
Which
And
actually, that's a good segue, because Aaron, one of our other brothers, has a really good question for you. Do you think psychic abilities are dormant traits suppressed by the ruling scholars who fear that for any challenge to their position of authority, making us believe they are false, thereby forgetting them?
well, there's a couple layers to that question, because as I mentioned earlier, about the whole thing with kids being psychic and then it being suppressed from them, that I don't think it's so much as it is an exterior suppression than it is actually genetics. Because a lot of the psychic abilities, my theory is that it comes from growth spurts from the pituitary gland secreting HGH into the pineal gland.
Mhm.
So, would an authority figure have any control over that? Not likely. Um, but would a authority figure have control suppressing your emotions, how you perceive things? Absolutely. We know that for a fact, that how kids are raised shapes and molds who they're going to be as adults. So,
Hmm.
is there, I mean, what's the largest group in the world that tells us that psychic abilities don't exist, but have us pray to prophets and seers and magicians and people that bring back people from the dead and heal by touching with their hands, but yet it's evil to touch people with your hands?
Yeah, that's this could be a whole nother show. And actually, I
Yeah.
forget who I was talking about. I was talking to somebody about it today. It might have been even Howard, or it was somebody. But I was saying like, or no, it was my wife actually, the Wicca consultant. Um, we could do literally a whole show on religion, on
Oh,
philosophy, because that's something my wife and I do every once in a while. She brings up a topic, and we just both go paranormal mode and just back and forth. Just it's great. We have great
it's
banter.
easy.
Usually ends with her cussing at me and telling me to shut up. But
That's called
that's
marriage, Matt.
oh, I know. Oh, I know. And so does the audience. They all know my wife. um, so Emmy, awesome Emmy, has another question for you. And this is a little on the personal, and I know a little bit of the backstory to this one, but I want to see your
Okay.
response. So she has a question. Do you know
Oh,
anything about sleep paralysis? She 2 to
okay.
3 times a month it happens to her, and doctors don't know why.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that doctors don't know why. That intrigues me. Okay. So I explain this to people all the time because so many people come to me and say, I've heard of sleep paralysis, but I've never had that. Yes, you have. Everybody has it. You have sleep paralysis every night of your life, every single night. If you don't have sleep paralysis for 45 minutes, you go insane.
Hmm.
Your brain functions will shut down. You have it every night. You have to go into sleep paralysis so that your body can enter REM state, rapid eye
Mhm.
movement state, so that you can dream. If you do not do this, your brain will shut down. Sleep paralysis is crucial for the brain to purge excess nitrogen from your brain. Look at our atmosphere. We breathe in considerably more nitrogen than we do oxygen. We don't need nitrogen. Have you ever flexed your fingers and hear a cracking sound?
All the time.
That's nitrogen getting pushed out of your knuckles. Have you ever
Hmm.
been to a chiropractor or an osteopath and they turn your neck and it cracks? That's not the bones cracking, it's nitrogen getting pushed out of the muscles.
Hmm.
So, nitrogen is excessive in our body, but we don't need it. So, our brain has to, minimum 45 minutes every night, shut down and purge the nitrogen out of it. Because if you ever done like a 24-hour shift, you ever been awake for 40 hours straight,
Mm-hmm. Multiple
punch
times.
drunk. You know what the term punch drunk is?
Yeah.
All right. The medical term is nitrosis. You have too much nitrogen in your brain.
Oh.
You have so much nitrogen in your brain, you start making up words. So you have to go to sleep. Your brain has to shut down to zero wavelengths. You have to go into full rapid eye movement and full delta sleep and get that sleep paralysis going. So, why do people think it's a paranormal thing? Because when we come out of sleep paralysis, we go through several stages of brain waves. So you got to go through your delta, your gamma, your theta, then get into beta and alpha. Those are your awake stages of
Mm-hmm.
analyzing things. Alpha waves are your imagination and emotions. Beta is analytical, color, math. Things are simple. So yes, that is true. And if you use the word masseuse again, I will come over and flick your ear. It's massage
He might like it.
therapist.
He might like it.
So
He really
people
might
ask me all
like
the time,
it.
how long you been a masseuse? I'm like, I've never been a masseuse. Masseuse means female prostitute. I've never been either. So it's
My
massage
ex-wife is a
therapist.
massage. My ex-wife is a massage therapist, and towards the end of our relationship, I would just do it just to piss her off. I would call her a masseuse, and she goes, "No, because nobody pays for it like that." And I was like, "I pay for it like that." I was like, "But I just don't get it a happy ending." And then I get smacked. But yeah, that's beside the point.
There you are. There's one for your ear. So so when you come through those stages, when you go through them correctly and become awake, you're not aware that you had sleep paralysis. But every now and then something happens where we jump from delta wave right up to alpha or beta wave, and you wake up and your body isn't there yet and you're locked up and you can't move your hands, and that dream state is still catching up with you. So you have a dream of being held down, you have a dream of being somebody on top of you, because your brain is trying to catch up with your body, because now your body's awake but your brain's like, we're not there yet. So all these images. But the most common image that people see when coming out of sleep paralysis is the man in the black hat. Why? I gotta say, I don't have one for that yet. I don't know. But one of the most fascinating aspects of dream research, and this is one of the big things that Dr. Stanley Krippner is still doing research on today, is multiverse theory. That dreams are, you hit a specific frequency in your brain waves while you're asleep and during sleep paralysis that allows you to cross the Einstein-Rosen bridge and visit yourself in an alternate timeline. And that's all right. Well, we'll talk about that later. And that's what you're dreaming about. Your dream is you in an alternate timeline, in another universe, another dimension. And so when you wake up and you see somebody standing in front of your bed, it's you spying on you. Now, here's the fascinating thing. These are astrophysicists coming up with this theory. This isn't some guy sitting in his underwear in his basement going, this is such a cool idea for a sci-fi story. No,
I take a personal shot at that one.
This is Neil deGrasse Tyson coming up with this stuff. Stephen Hawking's Niku Mashu is like, yeah, he wrote 6 books on this. So this is stuff that actual physicists are coming up with, saying, yeah, this is what we think dreams are. And that's what I find so fascinating. And there's so many aspects to parapsychology where multiverse theory gets brought into it.
Yeah, we've actually spoken about the multiverse theory on the show before, and forget what other show, but regardless, that was something that was, to me, with sleep paralysis. It was actually, well, dreams. The dream state is you actually crossing over and kind of touching, not going through, but touching another verse, another universe, another dimension, whatever, and you're basically astral projecting into it. That is what it is. Now, Emmy did say, and she doesn't get into total REM sleep, and she doesn't remember any of her dreams. Also use a CPAP. Okay. Wow, that took me. I thought it was supposed to be. See, this is what it. Anyway, so that explains. You know what? That explains my shows too now. Because now, now
there's a logic to that. I'm reading this here. All right, so I see CPAP. I use a CPAP not for apnea, but because my O2 levels drop around the same time. So there's that brain thing trying to work out the O2 nitrogen levels. So it's trying to purge the nitrogen, but something's going on in her body that she's purging O2 as well. And
Hmm.
that and she must, I mean, and again, if you don't get a total REM sleep for 45 minutes, woohoo, things aren't going to function.
Well, that
So
explains
you
the
may
show
be
then.
doing it, but you're not doing it. Well, and what's interesting is even Star Trek Next Generation did an episode on that.
Hmm.
They did an episode on the importance of getting REM sleep every night, and everybody on the ship went insane.
Hmm. That's
And I was like,
interesting.
I said, this is really neat. This is really happening.
Emmy also continues. I never thought of sleep paralysis was related to paranormal. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like you mentioned the figures, and I was going to ask you about that. But a lot of people, and again, this is all theory because, well, at least the paranormal side of it, when people wake up from REM or from that sleep paralysis, they do see a figure. They see a figure. I've heard everything from a demon. I've heard grandma over in the corner. I've seen
Mhm.
big black man. I've seen this. I've seen that. And that theory, it makes sense. If something is leaking over from a multiverse, if that doorway, we'll just put it in layman's terms, if that doorway is open, something seeps through. Of course. And if you're in REM sleep and you haven't closed that dimension or closed that connection, yeah, of course, you will see that stuff. So it's very fascinating. And I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
And I'm really glad the way that she put it there because that's a little different. We're going to get to that in a second. That they didn't associate it with the paranormal. And one of the phrases I use all the time. Yes, both Star Trek, because it was, yes, that episode of Next Generation was a takeoff from an episode on the original series
Mm.
about the lack of REM sleep. So, but anyways, so the whole thing about it being associated with the paranormal is because when people experience something that is perfectly normal and they don't understand it, they usually jump to the paranormal. And one quote that I use all the time in all my classes is it's crucial to understand how things work so that we understand what is normal, so that we can distinguish it from the abnormal, so we don't perceive everything as paranormal.
Ooh, I like that. Aaron, I think you have someone to take over definitions because I like that one. Might not fit on a shirt, but I do like that. I do
Yeah.
like that. So looks like Dina and Raymond are both asking somewhat of the same thing.
Okay.
Lucid dreaming.
So lucid dreaming is lucid dreaming is a type of dream that you are in control of it. So the theory behind that is that, again, it's what level brainwave you're at, because one person will write you have to be in gamma wave to dream. Another person will write no, it's delta wave to dream. And then Dr. Crypto will come up and say, yeah, but if you're in theta wave, you can have leaks of beta wave get in there. And if beta wave can get in there, you can control the dream.
Hmm.
And there was just a big report about it on I effing love science page of all pages on Facebook yesterday about how there's scientific research now on lucid dreaming. And I said, now? I said, lucid dreaming research goes back to the 50s. So, but you could read up on many different books about it. But lucid dreaming means that you are in control of the dream. You are shaping it. Now, recurring dreams, that kind of skips away from the multiverse theory thing, because what is bringing this dream up? Like, I used to dream all the time of flying, so why do I keep having these recurring dreams of flying or recurring dreams of being back in the military from the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I keep dreaming about being at this old martial arts school I studied at back in the 90s? So what causes that? And that could be some memory engrams that are stuck while doing a theta wave dream. So that brings up the question is exactly what brain waves. Are we only one type of dream? No. there's a lot of different things. I think there's a lot of different phenomena that goes on in our brain that we just all stick under the dream category because
Okay.
that's we're asleep. So
Yeah.
anything that happens while you're asleep, that's a dream. And it may be 5 or 6 different phenomena going on.
All right.
Were
Well,
they
Raymond's.
friendly aliens?
I hope so. Well, it's Raymond, so who knows? So he's asking, what if you can force yourself out of sleep paralysis?
Well, that's showing some form of lucid control in order to do that. And when you're in sleep paralysis, technically your brain is supposed to be shut off. So if you have some type of lucid control, then it's not completely shut off. Um, and you don't want to, because as I mentioned before, it's crucial that you do it for a specific amount of time or a minimum amount of time every night in order to purge all that nitrogen out.
Okay. So I so I think I already know the answer to this one. But we're gonna hold off on the questions because we're approaching the hour and a half mark, folks.
Okay.
So we have I have two more questions, and both are very infamous on this show. And with you, it's oh wait, Dina said it's a great question. Okay, so here we'll ask this one. This will be the last one from the audience.
Okay.
Fair play,
Okay.
and then we'll close out. So Vicky wants to know what causes people to have dreams that come true. So premonitions.
I wish I'd answered that. That would basically fall into precognitive clairvoyance. So is what is causing that precognitive aspect to happen, because it's vibrations. So is that vibrations in the web of life and the time ripples and such and so forth, is that piercing that vibrations that you hit with your brain waves while asleep? I mean, what causes people to be precognitive when they're awake? So that's it. I say it all comes down to vibrations. We all pick up vibrations. We all pick up frequencies differently. That's why we can mesh with certain people a certain way, and we're totally don't want to be near somebody that has a specific frequency emitting from them. So what yeah, honestly, what's the difference between being precognitive between awake and asleep? So yeah, I totally think that you could be precognitive when asleep. It's just a matter of what frequency your brain waves are hitting and what are you remembering.
Mm. And Raymond, this is why you and I get along so well. So the two questions I have, the first one,
Yes.
it's going to be kind of interesting. So I'm really interested in your answer, because most of the people we have on the show are paranormal investigators, people who go out and do a lot of the field investigating. So my question to you, and I'm going to spin it because I don't know if this individual is watching. He claims I stole it from him, and I didn't. We'll talk about that another time. So
All right.
say you go to a class. You go to a class to teach. You're sitting in
Okay.
your auditorium, you're preparing your notes and everything like that. Two gentlemen, one kind of big, looks like he's all buffed up, bald head, walks up and throws a duffel bag right in front of you. And before you have a chance to say, hey, you dropped something, this British guy comes up behind you, sets a backpack right on your lap. And while in the chaos, he disappears, just leaves. And you're like, who are these two individuals? You look in the bag, and the duffel bag is full of money. The backpack has all of your some clothes and stuff like that, and a plane ticket that is blank that says you can go wherever you want in the world to do anything paranormal, or you can be able to study, do whatever you want. Everything's paid for. Where are you going? Where are you going to visit?
Mm-hmm.
Take that,
Probably University of New England in Australia, because they currently have the largest and most well-financed parapsychology department in the world right now.
Now, what are they doing? So, like, what are they doing over there that's different from, let's say, here in the U.S.?
What are they not doing? Well, first off,
fair.
They have, well, all right, name off all the colleges in the U.S. right now that have parapsychology departments.
Uh,
I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry about that. I think WSU, Wazoo, and Pullman,
Mhm.
Washington. I believe they had one. Oh shoot.
I don't even know anymore.
I mean,
to be
they
honest
used
with
to
you.
be everywhere, but two things happened. One, a lot of them lost their funding because people are just like,
Exactly.
we don't want parapsychology to be associated with our college anymore. And the colleges that do have it, they changed the name of it. It's not called parapsychology anymore. It's called perceptual studies.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
you can look up perceptual studies and you can find that in dozens of colleges. I
Mm.
mean, Stanford still has it.
What
Harvard
was the
still
name of
has
it?
it. Perceptual studies. So look up that, and you'll find a lot of colleges that still have that. Maryland, Virginia Tech. So that's still big. But UNE, and because we have UNE here in Maine,
Mhm.
University of New England. I didn't know that a province of Australia is called New England.
I was gonna
So
say that threw me off. I don't know if you saw my
there's my
reaction.
geography lesson for the day right there. So yeah, but there's a bunch of doctors there that doing a ton of research. And then there's also Dr. Carolyn Watts in Edinburgh in Scotland. She has a very large parapsychology department, and she did a program. I did an online program with her 2 years ago on the effects of religion on how that causes people to believe in parapsychology and the paranormal.
Hmm. That's really cool. Okay, so the next question, and I think this one I just have to ask Squeaks my final question, because I think if I don't ask it, I think the audience will get very upset with me given the way this show has gone. And now, Walt, this is the most important question of the night, and this deserves the 100. Not saying you haven't been, but the 110% most honesty. Do you want to come back for a part 2?
Oh, absolutely.
Say
Awesome.
very hard questions tonight, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
What's up, Victor?
Hi,
How you
Victor.
doing, brother? the Don.
Vic.
Sata? I'm gonna call you Sata from now on. Not saying Sata. It's the accent. He's even typing in an
I
accent
thought they
now.
were calling me Satan there for a moment. It wouldn't be the first.
That would be a new one on me.
Victor's those Boston boys, him and IG I was telling you about earlier in the show. He's even texting in an accent, and I love it. So, well, Walt, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has
Yeah,
actually
thank you.
been probably one of my favorite shows. Very informative,
thank you.
and I've even learned a lot. So we'll get in touch with you to schedule a part 2, and I'm super excited. So before we go, would you like to give any shout outs?
I want to shout out to my wife, who's been very quiet and keeping to herself in the other room. And shout out to my friends on the Paranormal 5, who are actually doing trivia night right now online. And they're wondering why I'm not joining them on trivia night. So they've been doing that. And to all the parapeeps in Maine that have been watching and that I'll be seeing at upcoming conferences coming up really soon.
Well, if you ever get down to Pennsylvania way, well, please feel free to look me up. I'm located in central Pennsylvania, not too far from Gettysburg. So, but anyway, really appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk very, very soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Speakers. Have a great night. Take care.
You too. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah,
Actually, I learned a couple of things. I'm really excited, and it's funny. Parapsychology, like I said earlier, gets thrown around so much, and a lot of people don't understand what it actually is. They think parapsychology is you get Casper on a couch or something, and you talk to him. And
I don't know about you, but I grew up in the 80s, and this doesn't reflect anything on me, but I grew up in the 80s thinking parapsychology was what what's his face on the Ghostbusters was doing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Connecting to his head and all this other stuff with
See,
Zool. And,
See, when I first heard parapsychology, I thought it was the psychology and mental state of spirits. Like you pick it apart, and it's more than just stuff like that.
but if
It's so
somebody didn't understand it, they would think of the same thing going back to the movies with all this other stuff. You know what I'm talking about? But you and me and our members, we all do research, and so the more research you do, the more you understand what it actually is.
100%. 100%. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Apparently, we have a guest tomorrow.
Yes. Right. It is Urban Exposures. But I might be saying that name wrong.
Urban
I'll have to
Exposures.
look me out tonight. I
We're
finally
gonna
have a house to myself, y'all.
We're gonna expose ourselves in the urban style.
Right.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited for that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to catch us for Friday night. Friday night is going to be a little different because we are not hosting a 9 o'clock show. We are going to be hosting a 7 p.m. show right here. There it is on screen. It is GGH on air. We will be hosting. We will be answering all of your questions for the Global Ghost Hunt. We also are going to be showing you how to sign up if you are having problems signing up and talk about the benefits of it. Talk about the benefits of signing up. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited. And then I don't even know what the hell's going on next week, but but it's bound to be a blast. You guys know by now. So, Squeakers, you want to say anything before we take off?
Just that it's going to be an interesting week with all three shows, and I'm pretty excited about it.
So am I. So much love to everybody out there. And don't forget to join us not just tomorrow night, but Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun. And to all the ladies out there, I just want to say, fight the power.